Hey guys, so this video is on how to do the discharge summary note. Probably the hardest part of this process of writing the note is doing the hospital course, and so we'll talk about that in this video as well. So first, kind of like with the other notes, you can either do them in this section here, and then so actually for the discharge summary though, you have to click on, let's see, the discharge tab, and then it adds in this one, the hospital course. Um, So you can do it there, and then you would go here and then convert it into the note. One thing with this that I found, I don't do it this way. I just make a new note here. But some people like to do this. You can write up the hospital course and kind of keep a running list of what the hospital course is here. Um, and then it kind of saves with the patient, and it just saves it kind of under this tab. And then kind of interestingly, other residents or other doctors too can actually see that. So you could write it up for a patient and then say you're off the day that they're discharged, then the other resident, I believe it works this way. The other resident can kind of see it and then steal it and put it in theirs. So if you want to help them out. I just do it this way though. I just make a new note, and then it would be discharge summary, and uh, discharge summary is the type and the title, and then you'd open it. So I made a sample note though for this patient that we've been kind of working with, the guy with the CHF exacerbation, and then we'll go through this. So let's see. So the first thing here is kind of just, it's the same as the admission note, put in the different names like Dr. Smith, Dr. Johnson, the med student's name. As far as the dates, generally the dates, the admission date and then like today's date are both going to be on here. So like admitted 7/20/2021, just dictate that right there, and today's date as well, like the discharge date. I've seen some people kind of type in here. Most of the attendings don't. I would recommend just putting everything in the hospital course. If you really want to, you could. Sometimes it just kind of confuses it to have like two places where you're putting documentation. So I prefer to just have everything in the hospital course. So I would leave this blank. It's up to you though. Um, as far as the brief HPI part, generally we copy the HMP from the admission note. You can copy the HPI part and then also the ED course if you want, and just put right in here. If you want, you can make a note like saying this, like per admitting physician, and then put in, copy and paste what they said, their HPI. Let's see, and then I'll go over the hospital course part at the end just because that's the most complicated. Usually I write that at the end and I just kind of knock out the easy boxes to start with. Problem list, that should be updated already. Physical exam, make sure you just don't forget that. So put in the physical exam using the dot phrase. For the labs, type .lab, and then it's the second one. And then this is this is a test patient, so nothing's showing up, but it'll show their labs, I think, over the last 24 hours. So just do that. Um, and then for the diagnostic tests, so we have kind of a certain way of doing this, but it's fairly easy. So you go to the results here and then go under images. And then this patient is a test patient, so they don't have actual tests. So you can't copy the EKG results, but any other test. So for example, this patient, or like sample patient, has had a chest X-ray, a chest CT angio, and then also an echocardiogram. So what you would do, I'm just going to go under like a random, let's see, note just to show how to do this. Let's see. So this was just a sample note I made. So say this is like the radiology report of like the patient's echo. You highlight it, and then you'll see this tab thing opens, and then click tag, and it goes up to here. And then you do that for all the images, everything except the EKGs. Then you go back to your note. Let's see. And then it'll be here on the left side, left-hand column, and then you just so you just drag it in, and then it'll be right there. So I'm just gonna delete that though, but that's how you do that. And then it like shows that it's cited from that image in the chart. So for discharge medication, and this is a really important part of it because you want this to be accurate because say they follow up with their primary care, they're really going to look at this and make sure that the patient's on these meds. So you don't want to have it incorrect. So this is actually incorrect because I opened this note a few days ago before I made before I actually did the med rec because I just barely did the med rec video or sorry, the discharge process video, which had the discharge med rec in it. So these are actually the meds that the patient came in on, but we wanted to up the dose of the dose of the Lasix, so we need to refresh this page. So see now we refreshed it. I guess I had added some other meds too, but that shows the increased dose of Lasix. So that's a really important step. Problem list, I don't think you have to do anything with. And then the discharge disposition, generally, I'll just write something. Some people put more details. I like putting all my kind of thoughts and commentary in the hospital course. I'll just write something brief like patient stable for discharge to home or stable for discharge to the skilled nursing facility. And then one thing that we do is the attendings have asked us to do this. It's a dot. You can steal this dot phrase from me if you want, but it's just something for billing saying that we spent like over 35 minutes. And then again, with these sections here, you can just leave them blank. If the computer doesn't fill like the sepsis one in, then any blank section is just automatically removed before the note's published, so you don't have to worry about those. So I think that covers all of those sections. So now we'll talk about the hospital course. Let me see if I can make this bigger. So I just typed up kind of a sample hospital course for this patient, and then the parts in red here are kind of what should be in the hospital course, like the main points. Because I feel like this is where I've gotten a lot of questions from like interns and med students of like, hey, what exactly should go in here? So, and kind of one of the big reasons for this and having it like succinct and accurate and with good recommendations is because the patient's primary care doctor is likely going to read this. And so you want to make it pretty brief just because they probably have a tight schedule. And then you also want to have like recommendations for them. So I'll just kind of read through this. So patient admitted for the CHF exacerbation, evidence of volume overload and admission. So we're not getting into like, you don't have to say what every single test shows. And then also we cited all the images down there. If they really want to see what the CT, for example, showed, they can just look down there. Patient was diuresed with IV Lasix, a negative fluid balance of 12 liters over the course of the hospitalization. And then their renal function remained intact. And then kind of note, this patient needed, or let's just say, for example, this test patient needed a lot of potassium and magnesium replacement during the hospitalization. Unless it was like a huge problem, you don't need to really put that in your note. It's not significant enough. Like it doesn't really change too much, I don't think, down the road for anyone else to know. So I wouldn't put in like minor details like that. And then this one I think is important though. The patient required up to 3 liters of oxygen via nasal cannula. And then we did wean the patient, and the patient did pass the walk test on the day of discharge, so they didn't need supplemental O2. But that is kind of a big deal that they needed oxygen. So I would put that. And then you're kind of saying like, yeah, they were safe for discharge. They passed the walk test. So if anybody asks, and then this is one of the most important things is kind of mentioning any changes to to their medication regimen, and then why you made the change. I guess I didn't say why I made the change, but in this case, it's fairly self-explanatory that they need kind of a higher dose for ongoing diuresis. So we changed the dose. We doubled their home dose of Lasix basically. And then I'm telling the primary care doctor they need to follow up with you in a week. And then I would recommend that you check their BMP and a mag level, just because this is a loop. It's a higher dose of their normal loop diuretic, so their potassium and magnesium could fall, or their renal function could go down. So they need that checked. So you can kind of read through this. Another one is if they were seen by a specialist, I would mention that, and then mention like any recommendations that the specialist gave specifically. We talked about that one. If there's any pending tests, I would have that. Sometimes we do send out labs of like kind of weird different tests that might take a few weeks to come back. So mention that. And then yeah, any other follow-ups that they have, or any other recommendations. So let me see. So I think that's kind of the end of that. I made kind of a cheat sheet of this. Let's see. And I'll post this up in the GME. There kind of already is one of the residents had posted this, but they're graduating, so I changed my name, or I changed it, and then so you can steal these dot phrases from me. But I also added to it these points of the hospital course. So if you want kind of a quick refresher, you can just look at these that I'll post up of those points of how to do the hospital course. All right, so I think that's the end of this video.